Welcome to the party. I'm not here right now, but I want you to listen very carefully. These guys are very funny, so pay attention. Enough talk. It's showtime.
Hello and welcome to Bags of Action. My name's Steve, my co-host is Pete.
Hello.
Hello, Pete. Pete is in the boxing ring, if you can't tell from his sound effects.
Method podcast.
Absolutely, yes. I'm currently wearing just some striped shorts with the stars and spangles on, stars and stripes, and boxing gloves, so I can't turn any buttons or press the keyboard. I just mash it from now on. So this episode, if you can't guess, we're talking about the 2015 film Creed.
Oh, indeed.
Although we saw it both in 2016 because that's when it came out in the UK.
Yes, when we grew up, films in America came out, and maybe, I think the second Star Trek movie was like 18 months later, or something ridiculous. But there's always a massive gap. Nowadays, they tend to be at the same time, or even sometimes a week earlier in the UK. With the exception of Creed, and Big Hero 6 actually, but with the exception of Creed, that came out I think on Thanksgiving in the US, and came out here end of January, early February.
Yes. Yeah, end of January, yeah.
Which meant it was largely spoiled on social media.
I managed to duck it, so I don't know if you had it spoiled.
I'll come on to it when we get to it. I had one thing spoiled, but then, having said that, I'm at the age where I forgot. So it's fine. I can be spoiled now, and then by the time I see something, I've actually forgotten. So it wasn't too.
Oh, okay, cool. Oh, right.
And it's the seventh Rocky film, which is crazy.
Yeah, I thought this Rocky Balboa was a great end to the franchise, given that he wanted to come back and revisit because he didn't like Rocky 5, and we both kind of said who can blame him. It was not good.
I'm not sure I've actually watched the whole of Rocky 5.
Have you turned it off?
I think I turned it off, and then later saw bits of it on TV. I will revisit it, because before we go on, I am keen to watch them all again.
Okay. So, we had Rocky Balboa, we had the kind of wrap-up, we had his final fight, and that seemed to be it.
Yes.
But then, a plucky young kid called Ryan Coogler comes up with a great idea.
So did he pitch this to Stallone? Is that how it came about?
I believe so. I believe that basically he grew up watching these films with his dad, and it was something that he completely loved. And like all of us, we come up with these crazy ideas and say, oh, wouldn't it be cool if, and wouldn't it be cool if. And he basically turned that into a real thing. Which sounds amazing. Like he's gone from a guy who's made films and he's done his own kind of films. You know, I think he went to Fruitvale Station,
which is apparently had which is same as Michael B. Jordan in that as well, isn't it? And that's had very good reviews. And you know what he's doing next, do you?
Black Panther for Marvel. So yeah, he came up with this idea, I believe, and I don't know how, but he was able to pitch it to Stallone, or it went to his people, who then it got pitched to Stallone, which is pretty amazing, really.
It's weird as well with this, because I remember I first heard about it and I was like, oh, that's a bit lame, a lame idea. But it's always the same, isn't it? It's the execution. I remember when I first heard about it, I thought, I did it like you said. They bookended it really nicely, the same as with Rambo, and I'm pleased that I don't think that's carrying on there. But it kind of, you had the start and the end. It's really nicely done. And then here, but this, oh no, are you flogging a dead horse? Are you just getting ready to hand it over from Sly so this franchise can continue with someone else? Has it become that kind of typical Hollywood thing? But then, remember seeing the first trailer, hairs on the back of your neck kind of thing going on?
Yeah.
And then it was like, why isn't it showing here? So I did the full 180, I think, from hearing it announced right the way through times. I've seen it twice. So, yeah.
But yeah, it was a way to continue the franchise whilst honouring the past and not doing a retelling or a retooling or just completely reboot. Ghostbusters Point Break!
I mean, in a way, this I feel very similar about this film to how I felt about Force Awakens. It's like there's a bridge between the past and the present.
Yes.
It feels very contemporary. Both films have been criticised for kind of treading familiar ground. What I would say about this in particular, it's a boxing film.
Yeah.
Hello, it's going to, and it's not that familiar. And anyway, people have no soul.
I don't know. It's like the new Star Wars film. They wanted something completely different. And yes, there were things that were similar, but there were also things that were different. And it's the same with this film. The fact, we'll come on to it, but there's lots of bits that are different enough, but it doesn't ignore the past.
Well, someone gets trained to become a better boxer and fights for a title. I know. And that may have happened in all the films. In some way, shape, or form.
Ridiculous.
I know. So
I expected lightsaber fights. I expected him to go to Vietnam back in time somehow. Anyway.
Yeah.
You can obviously tell by our tone, we're getting a little annoyed with some of the pointless and stupid criticism levelled at some of these newer films. If they're a complete rehash, Point Break, then we have little sympathy. And as we both got looks in the cinema, Pete for shouting boo when the trailer came on, and I shouted spin on and got looks when Point Break trailer came on. We stand by that.
Independently while seeing this film,
yes.
I believe.
Yeah, I was sat with someone who were quite embarrassed, but I shouted spin on.
I went boo, and then my wife went boo. I thought, excellent. I made the right choice there.
You married the right woman. Well done, Pete. She's a keeper.
Indeed. And last time I saw, when we were supposed to record this, you were even wearing your right T-shirt. I'm
wearing a Front Street Gym T-shirt.
See? And I said, falling asleep and not allowing us to record.
Well, I think we were having too much fun playing Battlestar Galactica.
That's true.
For 5 hours. So we talked about that in the last episode of Comic Book Outsiders, so never mind. We'll come back to that. And Scott did apologise for locking you in the break, but never mind.
If I was still there, we couldn't have recorded this. Thank goodness.
Let's get back to the film.
Yeah, don't make me bitter before we talk about this movie.
No. So this, as we said, this is a continuation of the Rocky franchise. Time has passed. Rocky has got a bit older. He still runs his restaurant, Adrian's. Yes. He doesn't fight anymore, and he's living a very kind of quiet life that's, in the autumn of his life. Not a lot's going on. Things are ticking by.
We don't really see him for probably 15, 20 minutes, maybe?
Something like that, yeah.
It's one of those, again, very similar to Force Awakens, is where I got wrapped up in that film and everything was going on, and then Han Solo and Chewbacca turn up. Spoilers for that film, in case you haven't seen it. And was like, you almost forget that that's coming. Do you know what I mean? Because you get wrapped up in the new characters and their journey. And the same thing kind of happened here, is we're following Adonis Johnson / Creed, and it was like, oh God, Rocky's in this. Of course he is. And I think because I saw Southpaw last year as well, which is also very good, I guess kind of I just thought, oh yeah, I'm watching a boxing movie. Oh yes, I'm watching this boxing movie. That's what's happening.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so we should say the film kind of begins with a very, very young boy fighting in juvenile hall, beating the crap out of somebody, which I don't know what I expected the film to start like, but that really wasn't it. I thought it would be in present day.
Yeah, me too. It's quite a nice setup, because I thought as well that he was the boy being beaten up. I thought, he's going to be the victim, and he's always losing fights until he becomes a boxer. But no, he is from an early age, and it's quite. There's a lot of nature and nurture stuff in this film, so it's kind of like, he is Apollo Creed's son, and yeah, he really is. I like the fact he's kind of. I don't know the fact he's beating the crap out of the kid, but he's doing it, standing up for his mother who's died, isn't she? And then Mrs. Huxtable turns up.
Yes, we should say Phylicia Rashad, who you and I probably both recognise more from Mrs. Huxtable from The Cosby Show.
Indeed.
So it's a great kind of thing. She talks to him about his father, his actual father, and her relationship to him and the boy, and they never actually names him, and then the credits roll, and that just tells you everything you need to know. And it's a really well done kind of little scene. I really like that.
Oh, how do you know my father? It's like, he's my husband. Ooh, hang on. Something's not quite right here. But I just think as a character as well, her husband's cheated on her and had a child.
Mm-hmm.
And why it's taken her that long, I don't know. But now, she's, I suppose because his mother's died, but, she's that kind of selfless that she's willing to kind of take him in and not abandon him, which a lot of people I think would have done.
Yeah, so she essentially takes him out of juvenile detention and raises him as her own son because she doesn't have any children of her own with the late Mr. Creed. And that's how we meet Donnie, or Adonis Johnson, as he's known, because he takes his mother's name for his own, so he avoids the shadow of his father.
But he's boxing straight away. That was the bit that surprised me as well, because we kind of go from there straight to Tijuana in Mexico, where he knocks the guy out relatively easily. Yeah,
the guy doesn't look that great a fighter, but it's obviously quite a backroom, very low-level fighting, because it's not anything like the other kind of boxing we've seen in the Rocky films. I did
think at this point, is it going to be kind of like all underground boxing? And I'm glad it was just kind of... But it's interesting, and I think it's really interesting part of this race. Like, was he born to fight? Does he fight because he's found out who his father is? It's really, I think it's quite interesting, the whole kind of dynamic of what he does. And then he's got, again, what I really like about this film as well is that things happen really quickly. They don't kind of dwell on him in the children's home. They don't dwell on him in this boxing match. They don't even, we see, he's got a job in an office. He's been promoted. Yeah. He's handed his notice in. And that happens within the space of about 60 seconds. So they really give, I think, the audience credit with being able to work things out without having it laboured.
Spoon-fed to them and hello, you work in this place as a, right, and just, watching him play on his computer or something. It's like, we get it. He works in an office.
And they didn't do the thing where, like he's got a terrible boss and he's treated really badly, and that's what's spurring him on. Actually, he's got a really good job. He's doing really well, but this just isn't the path that he wants to be on, which I think is far more, again, respectful to the audience and far more interesting than kind of hitting the tropes of kind of, fighting in work and fighting in the ring.
Yeah, he keeps those two parts of his life very separate. He's offered this promotion. He's like, well, I can't take it, because that would kind of commit him to being that for the rest of his life, or another portion of it, and he wants to fight. It's in his blood, and it seems to be just a part of him.
They have a massive house.
Well, I suspect that's from all of his, from Apollo Creed's riches, all the money that he made fighting. He bought a big mansion. But then again, his character is so ostentatious and so over the top. He'd buy. I almost expected it to be like a replica of the White House that he'd had built because he was Mr. America.
A swimming pool in the shape of him.
Well, or like a statue of himself in the front garden on the lawn or something. But even so, it's still a massive house, and it just shows that she's living reasonably comfortably. But, it was all of Apollo's money that probably, was able to buy this stuff, and she's been rattling around in this big house by herself until Donnie came to live with her. And
at this point, I think you got the first scene that made me think this was going to be something special.
Which one's that?
Shadow boxing. So he's watching...
Oh, yeah.
Creed v. Rocky.
Yes.
And I still can't work out whether he's fighting against his dad or against Rocky and being his dad. I think he's fighting against his dad. I think he's imitating Rocky and taking on his dad, because I guess one of the running themes through this, or a few running themes, I guess, are the fact that this isn't his name. In his head, that's not his name. Creed is not his name. But also the fact that he feels angry with his father for dying before he got to meet him.
Yeah.
So I think he is fighting against his father.
Well, as he says, I never knew him. I don't know what he's like. I don't know, who he is.
He's still just quietly fascinated by him.
Yeah, well, you couldn't help but be, somebody that's that big, someone that casts that big a shadow. Everybody knows the name Creed. Everybody's heard of him. And he doesn't use his father's surname because of the shadow it'll put over his own.
I guess, you can imagine, being however old he was, 11, 12, and finding out you're Muhammad Ali's son. That's, I guess, the equivalent.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So he's going to start training, and he goes to Delphi Academy, which is where Creed trained.
Yes, so it's quite a posh sort of place, really, isn't it? But the guy won't train him.
I mean, it's weird. I felt there's something missing from that. I couldn't put my finger on. So he's there kind of saying, look, I've done 15 KOs in Mexico. It's like, I won't train you, and I will make sure that no one else trains you. And I found that a bit odd. I couldn't quite work out what the problem was. But there's a great moment here where he turns on the kind of cocky charm like his father. So it's like, whoever gets a clean headshot on me, they get the keys to my Mustang car. And then, I always forget this with boxing. It's like, you're going to go, well, it's just this one gym in LA, but then they do these kind of infographics to introduce people, and the person he gets in with is the number 6 in the world at light heavyweight. And you think, you've got to remember that actually there are these few select gyms that are, everyone who goes there is at this kind of world-class level. And he knocks the guy out. He knocks out the number 6 in the world. And then you go, this guy has obviously got natural ability and talent. And then in walks the person that I presumed at this point was his main opponent, which is Wheeler, who trains at the same gym and is the world number 2.
Yeah, Danny Wheeler. And this guy looks the part. You think, oh no. But notice he puts the headgear on this time.
Yeah, that's brilliant. He's got the headgear on. Yeah. It's not stupid.
No, suddenly it's like, yeah, all right. But, and he gets knocked out. Wheeler just knocks him out. But he's a real boxer.
Yeah, like many people in the film. But he takes some big shots and is knocked out. I didn't realise
that he was, but he looks like he was.
I think, I'm trying to remember, I think that you and Scott talked about this when you talked about Rocky. That this, actors get to a certain point in the lineage of these films, boxers. And I don't know if it's because the expectation of the audience is higher and they want the technical ability to be better, but I do find it odd that all the opponents in these films now are boxers rather than actors.
So Wheeler's played by a guy called Andre Ward.
Okay.
And so I love this. Ward is ranked number 4 pound for pound boxer in the world. It's like, wow. So he was a super middleweight and a light heavyweight.
Yeah, it's light heavyweight that they are in this, isn't it, I think?
Yeah. So, but yes, he's, wow, this guy's had no losses. He had 28 fights, 28 wins, and 15 by KO. So that's his real record. So that's Andre Ward's real record. So when Danny Wheeler gets in the ring with Donnie and just knocks him out, and that's it. Gets the keys to his car.
Yeah, and again, it's that thing. There's no, that at some point this is going to be romanticised. With these films that the final fight will go a certain way. But I like the fact these early things they're no nonsense. The best person wins the fight. Yeah. It's over.
He's not well trained. He's not up to the challenge. He's not good enough.
And he's cocky.
Absolutely, but I think that part of it's come from him, and part of it is just from his dad.
Yeah.
You know, he's just his father's son. So he can't be trained there.
Nope.
That's it.
Wait.
So he goes to Philadelphia.
He does.
Then,
When he goes home first, tells his mum he's quitting his job, and she pretty much she doesn't want to see him die like his father, and so she pretty much washes her hands of him and doesn't want what to do with him.
It's quite a good scene actually, because she sort of says, you know, it's quite telling. She's, you know, I had to carry him up the stairs a number of times. This champion that he comes home and he's the showman, and he's the woo, and she'd probably sort of say to him, look, there's no one around. There's no cameras. There's no one watching. Stop being that showman. It's almost like the Stan Lee thing. I think I've seen one interview where right at the end he talks like Stanley Lieber, not Stan Lee Excelsior. And I suspect that. What's that?
Sorry, that's just funny.
Okay, Excelsior. It's that thing of when no one's watching, she'd be like, look, you don't have to do that anymore. And he probably was then, you know, quite tired, and if he's been coming out from a fight, he'll be bruised and battered and bloody. And she said, you know, I had to carry him up the stairs, broken ribs, everything.
Take him to the toilets.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, it's a really nasty, unpleasant side if you don't think about it. But, you know, she had to do it. That's the reality, and she doesn't want her son to face the same.
But he's determined. He goes to Philadelphia. That's the one bit I thought, it's cool, I really like it, but I'm not quite sure this would happen, but never mind. But he is drawn to there. He sees Rocky's statue, which is a nice moment, and as like you say, heads to Adrian's restaurant. And straight away it's really good because he just starts asking questions. He straight away, as soon as he meets Rocky, he just starts chipping away. There was a secret fight between the two of you. Who won? Is the first thing he says, pretty much.
Yeah, and it's like, he says, how do you know this? I just love that. It's just kind of straight away, as you say, they don't dither. And you know that Rocky's suddenly looking at this kid going, hey, and there's something there.
He's like, oh, you know, when Mickey died, Apollo brought you back. And it's someone as well, he obviously understands, I guess from the mother, he understands that, you know, a lot of people realise that over time Rocky and Apollo became friends, but maybe they don't realise how close they were and how much mutual respect there was. But he does. He has got that insight.
Because he says, you know, last time you saw my mother was at the funeral. She says, hello, why don't you call her up? And he's like, what? He says, no, she'll be fine. You call up if you want to check. Because he doesn't believe him at first. Yeah. But he knows too much. This is it. Donnie just knows too much for him to be faking it.
And I think Rocky's pretty much, you know, don't do that anymore, and kind of just sort of is pretty dismissive, really. Kind of lets him go. But you can tell he's already, I think, by asking the right questions and saying the right things, he's piqued his interest quietly.
I think it's because part of the reason as the film goes on, he takes this on, is that he's living a very sedate life now.
An empty life, really.
Yeah, there isn't anything going on in it, and I don't think he wants some excitement, but I think he wants some change.
Some purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. And Donnie brings it for him, brings this back to him.
I think at this point we get our first HBO Sports insert.
Is that what it is, right?
Do you know who the announcer is on that insert?
No.
It's Liev Schreiber.
Really?
He doesn't sound anything like him, but apparently he is. But I don't think you watch Ray Donovan. I'm a big fan of Ray Donovan. It's like one of my favourite TV shows. And he's from a boxing family in that. I don't know whether that's got anything to do with this, but I think he exec produces that, and I don't know if he's a boxing fan himself. But yeah, it's Liev Schreiber. Now, this was the first time I got a little bit like, oh. And now I don't think it needed to be in Britain.
No.
That's the only thing. I know it sounds ridiculous as someone who is British, but I like the glamour of these kind of films. Even the when it's like the rougher elements, it still has a certain glamour to the fact it's in the US. And it's probably realistic to who his opponent probably would be. And again, it's a real boxer who's a real Everton fan.
Right.
And then the HBO announces that he is the world champion and is going to be fighting the number one contender, who is none other than Weaver, So a boxer in real life will fight a boxer in real life. Yeah, I don't know. It took a bit of the edge off for me, but it's a minor niggle.
Okay. Didn't seem to bother me.
Don't make Everton glamorous.
I'm not getting anywhere near that. Is this where they say the fight's
no, not.
It's going to happen?
At this point, it's just been announced. It's just been announced it's going to happen. That's the fight that's on its way. And then Adonis he's living in kind of like a crappy apartment, and he hears some loud music downstairs, goes to complain, and find out it's a hot girl with attitude.
Tessa, or Thompson, whose character is called Bianca.
And she's a musician who's partially going deaf, which is an interesting kind of twist.
Yeah. I like. So if you're drawing parallels between this and the Rocky films, you had a character in Adrian who was very timid, who didn't know what she wanted to do, and Rocky had to kind of bring her out of her shell. In this, you got Bianca who knows exactly, knows exactly what she wants to do, where she's going, but her time is limited, and she's trying to make the most of it. And the reason she plays the music so loud is that she can rehearse, is that she's going deaf. And she doesn't like to wear her hearing aids.
Which is so good, because I think the loud neighbour bang on the door is a massive trope, and if it's a romantic comedy, you just go, oh, this is where it's going. But here it's like, oh, actually, sorry, I've made a mistake here. I apologise. So it's kind of it really pulls the rug out from under you as well as him. So I think it's really clever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she promises to turn the music down. He gets like 3 steps up, and then the music comes back on just as loud.
And you just knew that was going to happen. So Rocky has said no to training him. So he heads to Mighty Mix anyway.
Yeah, goes to Mick's gym. And
we get another infographic, and the number 4 in the world trains there.
Who's also a real boxer, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
Don't know what comment. Gabe Rosado as Leo the Lion Sperino.
And he's the son of Pete, who is the trainer at Mighty Mix. So, has he been in any of the films before?
I don't think so.
Because a lot of the people in this were in Rocky Balboa that I didn't realise. A lot of the kind of people in the corner and stuff. But I need to go back and watch that again.
Okay.
Myself.
I'm just going to have a quick jump on IMDb. I don't think he was in the previous films that I can see. No, he wasn't.
Okay.
But yeah, so basically so we should say that Donnie's going by his name Johnson.
Yeah, so in LA people did know who he was.
Yeah.
But here he's just a random.
He's just a guy, and they say, okay, it's this much for a locker, it's this much for this, I can train you a bit, but I'll give you mostly do what you do.
Give you some drills and check in on you, but my priority is the contender.
Yeah, who's his son? It's like, I'll do what I can, but... And he's like, okay, no, that's fine. And so he's just training at the gym along with a whole bunch of other people. And there again, he doesn't seem to be going anywhere or doing much of anything. And but he keeps going back and speaking to Rocky to try and engage with him, to try and get him to help him.
I think it's at this point that we find out that the Conlon-Wheeler fight is off. Which again parallels with some things that have happened in real fights over the last couple of years, is that Conlon punches Wheeler at the weigh-in, breaks his jaw, and so Wheeler's out of the fight. And out of the film, actually, because we never see him again, which I found really weird.
Yeah. But this is also where we find that... where Conlon basically is also on limited time?
Oh, because him punching him in the jaw... Oh no, because he's going to go to prison for waving a gun around, isn't he? At some point he's going to go to prison, and he's got a family and needs to make a certain amount of money.
So he's got he's got time to do one big fight, and then that's it. Then he has to go and serve 18 months or something for waving a gun around.
Which again, that's happens in the real boxing world.
Yeah.
And so he's going back to see Rocky, and there's a scene here which I absolutely love, and I can't put my finger on why. It's just the bit where he's unloading the van.
Yeah.
Which you think, a scene with a man unloading... It's just he's so polite. and so kind of helpful. It's something about that. He starts calling him Unc. He's like, the closest thing I got to family, Unc, which is a bit like, okay, that's come from nowhere. But he's gay, he won't use the name Creed, and he's just carrying all the stuff for Rocky. He's just that kind of respect for a father figure straight away, even though Rocky's like, I can carry this myself.
And he's like, yeah, I know you can, but I'm here, so I'll help. Yeah.
And he's asking him for drills, and and again, it's seeing, on one hand it's seeing Sly, but it's seeing the character looking so old. Well,
they've really greyed him up,
and he's got glasses and a hat on, which again parallels to the first film, but he just looks, you don't get to see, I mean, Rambo's very different, because that's kind of such a larger-than-life character. Doesn't feel real. This is, one of the rare occasions where you've watched someone play the same character for over 40 years.
Yeah.
And you watch them age, and it's even though things obviously happen further in the film, but even this, it's quite an emotional experience, I think. Just seeing him as an older guy, still in the role. So I'm really pleased these films are carrying on.
So I just love the end of that scene where he gives him the drills. Don takes a picture of it with his phone, and he just hands it back to her, and he goes, "Do you want it?" He goes, "No, I've got it. It's here. It's in the cloud." He's like, "The cloud? Yeah. What cloud?" And he starts looking up at the sky.
And then kind of as a throwback, because you forget, in the first film, he really comes across as not the brightest man around. And he kind of, over the films, he learns kind of street smart, and Adrian kind of brings him out, and kind of makes him a different man. But that almost was like a throwback to kind of where he started, that he's just like naive and kind of,
Well, it's also a thing to do with his age.
True,
like the fact
of course.
That, Donnie's a young kid, he understands technology and phones, and, there's Rocky probably with a manual phone and doesn't have an email address and doesn't have a mobile phone. So why would he? What would he need one for? So he wouldn't know about any of this stuff, Instagram and Flickr and Twitter and the cloud. And so when he says the cloud, I'm just kind of like, that's what someone that age would say these days.
Valid point. I was at a flea market at the weekend, and we saw a dresser that we liked. And the guy there was, do you want to measure it and stuff, to see if it'll fit in your house? And yeah, of course. And so he gave us a tape measure.
Yeah.
And then he was rummaging in a drawer, and I didn't know what he was doing, and we were measuring it, and I was typing into my phone in kind of the notes section, the measurements.
Yeah.
And then the guy goes, here you are, I found you a pen and a piece of paper. And I put it in my phone, and he sort of screwed up his face, shook his head, and then put the paper back in the drawer. And I had to stop myself from saying, it's in the cloud.
You should have. Just for me. So you can look up the sky and go, cloud? What cloud? Oh, that is brilliant. It was just, I just love it. Little touching moments like that throughout this whole film elevated it for me.
All the way through. I think the key relationships, and also it kind of, I think it's at this point he goes on his first kind of non-date with Bianca, but it feels like. Not. It doesn't quite feel like a documentary, but a bit like, to me, the first film, I always think didn't feel like a film. It felt like a Hollywood film. It just felt like...
Oh, God, no. Very low-key.
And this was one of the things that really reminded me of the first film, because they're in this place, and they're just... I don't know whether it's ad-libbed, but they're talking to the guys behind the counter about the food and what to have, and it just felt really authentic. And it's on this day, I think, that you find out that you just start to go, okay... She is very, very single-minded about her singing, and so she totally relates to him and his boxing. Because, it's something you want to do, and you're going to do it. And they do feel it's a very believable relationship, I think.
Yeah. As you said, they're both driven by a passion. That's what they live for. He doesn't, Donnie wasn't interested in making money, and that's not what he was there for. That's why he gave up the job and the promotion, because he didn't want it, because it wasn't important to him.
Exactly.
And she's the same. She loves music and has to make it.
I read a review last week that said, one of the big problems of this film, as well as the fact that it's very much like the other films, is that the central character is completely boring. It's like, that is so not true. He's very quiet. And again, a bit like Rocky was, I guess, in a way. Although he can have moments of being cocky, he's not that sure of himself. And especially when he's with her, he hardly speaks.
I think it's because he's watching her, I think, as well. And
you've got to think as well of his background and the fact that he was in a children's home and stuff. He's that interesting mix of kind of, because he's known as Hollywood throughout the film. They call him Hollywood, because it's seen as all glamour and everything else, because, that part of his life has been like that, but the bit before that was nothing like it at all. And it's just, I really like the performance, because he's very kind of inward looking, which is in total contrast to his father.
Yeah, he has his moments where he's just like him, and he's, very loud and brash. But there are other moments where he's very respectful and quiet.
And then another of my favourite scenes, and actually my favourite scenes are really quiet, is when Rocky goes to the graveyard.
Oh, yeah. I love this from Rocky Balboa.
Of course.
From that film. Yeah. So I just love the fact that he's got the chair, folding chair up the tree, and it's the same tree, and it's the same folding chair. And he gets it down and sits down, and this time, of course, sadly, as well as Adrian's grave, Paulie's grave's there. And he leaves a rose for Adrian and leaves a bottle of cheap whiskey, no doubt, for Paulie, or his birthday, and he sits down and reads the paper like he, always did. No, because in Balboa, he came and just talked to Adrian and talked about how much he missed her, talked about what he's been doing, and, because that's his family. I mean, this is the other thing. I know we're saying it seemed a bit quick that Donnie's calling him Unc, but by the same token, Rocky's got no one now. Yeah. He's talking to two gravestones, because that's it. That's his family.
He's reading the newspaper to two gravestones.
Yeah, he's got no family. He's got no kids. Well, sorry, to be fair, the character does have a son, but he doesn't live there.
Yeah, that is... There are, I think, three things that I would have a slight negative with this film. One I've already touched on, which was part of it being in Britain, which just makes me a strange man. There's another bit I'll come on to later, but the other thing is just that his son is kind of... He's moved away, and that's going to... And you've almost got to pretend he doesn't exist to make it work.
Yeah.
But it's a minor.
But to the same token, I mean, we know people that live quite a distance away from their parents, and when the parents get sick, they may go back and visit them, but they're not going to then move back and look after them, or they try and get them to go into a people's home, or so it feels like he is kind of on his own.
I guess in a way he's estranged from his son, really.
I think his son's just moved on with his life. He needed him up to a point, and then he tried to get out from under his shadow.
They do cover that. They say that he's gone to Vancouver.
A little bit.
He was sick of being in my shadow.
But yeah, so basically Rocky's got no one as well. And I think that's another reason why he's curious about Donnie, that the kid is there. He wants to engage with him, and he's interested in what Rocky has to say, which has got to be something quite new for him in a few years.
I think as well, from Rocky, I think going to the churchyard is kind of what prompts him to then call in at the gym to see what's going on, because it is kind of, I think he has that realization that I am sat here with no one, and
he stops. He stops reading the paper, and it catches himself like, what am I doing? But yeah, that's why he goes to the gym to see what's going on.
And that winds Pete up, because Pete, the trainer, is like, well, hang on, my son's he's got 17 victories under his belt.
I've asked you to train him several times.
Just come and sit in his corner, or get the press out, and it is that kind of modern kind of everything. Well, I say not modern. It's just it's boxing in particular. Any sport, it's all about the promotion and and what's going to drive the purse. And I think he's saying, well, Rocky, if you turn up and you're with us, we can have much better options. But he's like, oh no, I'm just here to check in on someone. Which definitely puts his nose out of joint. And another great moment. Happens, because again it's like, okay, he's going to train him in the gym. No, he's going outside to chase a chicken.
Is that the chicken? Is the chicken thing first?
Yeah, it's the first thing he does. He goes, right, I need to train you, and he just takes him straight outside. Sure.
So he agrees to train him, which is quite a big thing.
Yeah, but he kind of, I think But I don't think he gets asked again. I think he just doesn't he just turn up and say, just how are you getting on? And then he watches him and he's like, I've got some things I can show you. And then he takes him outside to chase the chicken. I think.
I can't remember. You've seen it twice.
I think so. And then you get the first training montage, which is always the best thing in any film.
Is that why? When does he take him to the Front Street Gym? Because he says you can't train there.
That's not until he knows he's got a fight. This is just, I'm going to help you. But I think at this point, I'm going to film my days with this guy, see how he gets on.
Yeah.
If he's good, maybe something will happen. But I don't think at this point Rocky is thinking this kid is going to have a boxing career. He's thinking, it's a good, this fills my days. Someone to be around. It's a world that I know. Because he's still being very low key, isn't he? He doesn't really engage with anyone else at the gym. He kind of still is on the outside. And then there's a really good bit here. So he's running outside and he's skipping, and then he's on the speed bag, and then he takes him to the mirror, which is the bit from the trailer.
Right.
And then there's lots of things. It does a lot of things in this film that they mention it early and then bring it back in. So he's like, I believe this in boxing and in life. The real opponent is yourself. It's the person in the mirror.
I mean, Rocky's always had a bit of this ever since probably the first film. He's always kind of spouted some of this sort of stuff, and it sounds quite simplistic, and yet it rings true. It's that sort of things that he's learned throughout his life, and of course by this time the character has been boxing for many years, he's lived for many years, he's been around the block a few times, he knows some things.
But I think as well,
and he's trying to
part
pass
of his
them
thing
on.
as well is that he knows that Apollo Creed was a better boxer. And he says that, I think, earlier in the film. It's like he was pound for pound the best boxer in history. How did you be? Just by getting past that, by training, by tactics. And I think there's a lot more tactics in this film than possibly in some of the earlier ones.
But the bit we probably missed is that when he talks about the third fight, he says there was a third fight, and he says yes, and Donnie asks him who won, and he said, well, he did. And there's no kind of regret. There's no kind of, because he's like, well, he's the better fighter. He was a better fighter, so of course he won. And that was a real surprise to me, that he so willingly admits it. But it's true. And that's just how it is, And Rocky's very, if anything, what you see is what you get.
Yeah, totally.
There's no pretense about it.
That's the one thing. As the films have kind of got better, worse, better, it's kind of a mixed bag. Obviously, the first one is amazing, but the one thing I think that has been true is that about his character. The second one he starts to get a little bit big for his boots, but it's still this kind of he's grounded. And it's a character who you believe has lived a life and has got 40 years of experience under his belt.
Yeah.
So I think.
So he starts training Donnie.
And the relationship with the girl, or the Bianca, starts to move on. There's quite a funny scene of doing some bad rap into a microphone, which I thought was funny. And the training continues. And then Pete has started to notice that Hollywood, as they call him, is actually quite good. And asks him if he'll get his weight down and to keep his son warm.
Yeah, so basically he wants a warm-up fight for his son. Doesn't see Donnie as a real challenger.
I think he
thinks
he's good enough to look the part and to be credible. But because he must think there's something there for why Rocky's getting involved. But he doesn't see him as someone who could have any chance of beating his son.
No. He just sort of thinks, well, why is this kid? There's something there, as you say, if Rocky's involved. So he agrees to the fight. He agrees to do the fight.
6 weeks' time. And again, I think it's Adonis who suggests moving in with Rocky. So I'll move in with you. We'll do a training camp.
I can't remember if it's him.
I think it is. I think it's that way round. Because you've got to think all the way through the film, he's pushing Rocky as much as Rocky is pushing him.
It's true. So he does tell Bianca that he's
well, she
moving
sees
out.
him out the window.
Yeah.
Why didn't you tell me your uncle is Rocky Balboa? It's like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, he's kind of hiding that.
Yeah, he's got some bigger surprises to come.
But this is the bit where he moves into the house. He goes into Paulie's old room. He sees the picture of his son. There's a great moment where he goes, "It's Paulie's old room," and he looks at various things, and he picks up there's a giant stack of porn mags.
Yeah, I like him.
But he's like, "Good job, Paulie. Good job." It's like, because that's Paulie. That's what he was like.
Another great moment. There are so many. Is the next? It's like his alarm goes off the next morning. So the first day of moving in, 5:45, and it's just Rocky dancing at the doorway. It's like some risky business.
It's like what? The look of his face. He's just kind of like there's a white old man dancing.
But it also, it's only about 10 minutes earlier that Rocky was sat on a chair reading the paper to 2 gravestones, and just in the space of him going back into his old life, he's dancing. And he just,
well, it's got something to do.
Yeah, exactly. And then he makes a run with the van, which again is a wonderful parallel from the early films. And it's like, oh yeah, we're going to go to a different gym. Really? Yeah, you can't train in the same place as your opponent. We're going to go to the Front Street gym. Oh, well, how far is it? Oh, it's not far. It's not far. I'll go in the van. You run on behind.
Yeah, it's like 5 miles or something. It's just like, I'm exhausted. Right, now we can start training.
And again, in there, it's kind of... It's another shift in the film, but it's really good because everyone there seems authentic. It's much more intense. He's got a real team behind him. It's
a tiny gym as well, though. It's like it's full of history, though. It's like all the walls are covered with posters from previous matches. You can't. Some of them have got characters, I'm sure, names of people from history or real fighters or actors or people on the cast. But there's just layers and layers and layers all over the wall that it looks like kind of inside a newspaper. But the gym is tiny up these stairs above this street where these guys go up and down with their bikes.
But it's that age-old thing of, if you want to be a fighter, you've got to live like a fighter. And this is exactly what this is. And I think, and in a way, he's sparring with the trainer's son, isn't he? The trainer's son doesn't think he's ready. You get the sense that Rocky is going to try and teach him humility at this point as well.
Yes.
And then there's a line here which comes in later about one step at a time, one punch at a time, one round at a time. Yeah. And my note here is that this is Stallone's best performance since Copland.
I think so. I think as it goes on.
There is an argument that he shouldn't be the only person Oscar nominated, and I would agree with that, but despite that, I think you can't take anything away from if you say, it's the same character, it's the same character 40 years on, and the amount of pathos in this film is tangible.
There's a lot there. So he starts training Donnie in the Front Street gym. It's very rustic, but they start going at it. I think everything's kind of moving along nicely. His relationship with Rocky's building. His relationship with Bianca continues.
There's a great moment here where Rocky and Adonis are doing the speed bag together. So.
Yes. Oh, and it just shows you, there's like this little kind of flash of that's what it was like right back to the first film in 1977.
I know.
Oh.
3.
I was born.
They should have called you Rocky. What were they thinking?
I know. It's ludicrous. That's my middle name now. From now on. So then I think we get the first fight. Donnie against Leo the Lion Sperino. And isn't this where Pete kind of mentions...
I know why you're training in my... I called LA to find out who this kid is, and I know it's Creed's blood. And then Rocky's like, do you know what? For me, we're old friends. We grew up together, although none of us have ever seen Pete before. We're old friends. For me, please don't say anything. And then Adonis needs a toilet.
I thought this was a fake, like he was doing it because, I don't know, he was going to put something in his glove, or he was, I thought, is he going to take something? I didn't really know what it was about, and it turns out he was just really nervous and had to go for a shit.
Which was a strange moment. But I guess it did also make you go, okay, this guy he is his father's son, but he isn't that cocky underneath, or he's had a large lunch.
Yeah. He's just a nervous kid.
And the big
big
thing in this fight, I think, is that he doesn't really defend at all. So he takes a lot of shots. And then Rocky gives him a trick, doesn't he? That I think another thing to love is that he goes a left-right combo, and he's like, "Oh, will it work?" He's like, "Well, it worked. Your father did this to me."
Yes. Yeah. And it's like, okay. And he wins.
Yep.
He takes it down.
And then he hugs him. It's like, "We did it, Rock," which is another great. Just calling him Rock is just so kind of perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And then the relationship is going a little bit further. Not with Rocky, by the way, with Bianca. But then the next morning, again, if this was an older film, it would have been a newspaper. But here, it's a modern film, so it's a website. And the fact he's Apollo Creed's son is all over the world sports media.
Yeah, and they're talking about it, and they're playing him down, and they don't really know what to make of him, and it all kind of blows up then. Things change for him. Does Bianca then find out as well?
Yeah, she's the one who notices it, because she stayed the night. She sees it and shows him. She's not happy with him because he's lied to her. And then you see his stepmom, I guess, in a way. She sees the coverage, and she's starting to kind of, she hasn't been in touch with him, but she's keeping tabs. And then this is where we see Conlon in Liverpool, seeing the paper. He doesn't think anyone cares about Rocky Balboa anymore, but his manager, Tommy Holiday, I believe he's called, he's like, well, hang on, actually, do you know what? You fight this kid. Yeah, okay, it'll only be because of his name, but you fight this kid, you'll get such a big payday that it'll be fine.
It'll look after your family, and that's why you're doing it. He's like, yeah, but I want a real fight. And he's like, look, you do something stupid, you're going to go to prison for it. If you want your family to be okay, you'll do what I say, and you'll take
the Hollywood fight, as it were, and then that's that. Yeah. So he's a phone call. I'm going to come to Philadelphia for a 30-minute meeting from Liverpool.
Yes, as you do.
And he's very honest. He goes to Adrian's. He's got basically there's no one left to beat, which because I guess he's beaten the fourth best. I don't know who the third best was. And the second best is the guy that he can't find anymore. So he's basically fought everybody. And he's like, look, if we don't tell anyone that your 16 wins, or your 15 wins are in Mexico, you had the one you got the other night, and you got 16 and 0, then you are actually the number one contender. If we kind of bend the rules. But Rocky isn't happy. He thinks basically, again, they just want someone to knock out. They just want someone to be in the ring and for them to have an easy win and an easy payday.
Well, I like the fact that Donnie goes to him and just kind of says, look, I won't do this unless you're in my corner.
Yep.
Unless you think I can do it. Or, if you're not in my corner, I won't do it. And he says, if it's anybody other than you, I'd say no to this fight. And that's quite...
Well, that
touching.
bond, again, it's the bond he's got with Rocky and Bianca, which I'll come on to again in a second, is that it is very believable that he's just suddenly got these small amount of people, but that he really cares about. And again, obviously Tommy is like, well, you have to be called Creed to do this fight. And he's like, oh, no, Johnson. It's like, well, no, you don't change the name. You don't change the name, there is no fight. So it's a bigger thing then. It's kind of, then he starts to doubt whether he's going to do it. And there's a really good bit here because Bianca's talking to him and saying, well, just take the name. And he's like, no, I don't want to. And she's like, well, you're living with Rocky. You are living in your father's footsteps, whether you want to admit it or not. You came to Philadelphia to train with his best friend, and you've become a boxer. So, and then he's really honest, which I really like. He's like, well, if I take his name and I lose, I'm a fake Creed. And it's that thing of, because he's illegitimate, because no one knew who he was, because of the circumstances of how he was born and how he was brought up, he feels like a fraud. And it's really clever because up to then you kind of thought he's angry with his dad and that's why he doesn't want to be called Creed. But you now start to realise, that's true, but actually the other level to it is he doesn't think he deserves it.
Yeah. He's been living this other life as Johnson for many years, so that people didn't notice him and that he could get by on his own talent, so that if he did achieve something, he could then say, well, it was always in my blood, it was because I'm Creed's son.
But it's interesting as well, when Rocky kind of does agree to train him for this fight, it's the parallels between this and the first film. Now, he's taller than you, he's got more reach, he's got more experience, he's got more speed, and he's the champion. You're going to have to, work his body and dig in, and just like he did with your father. And it is interesting that Creed's son now is the Rocky of the final fight, not the Apollo Creed.
Yeah. And so it's just that hardcore training again of everything every day. Every bit of ounce of energy has to go into this training, but he still manages to keep his relationship with Rocky and with Bianca. We should probably talk about the other big thing that happens with Rocky
just right now. Yeah.
Right.
So this is the bit.
The training and Rocky stumbles.
This is the bit that was spoiled for me, but I thankfully forgot. And then as soon as it happened, I thought, I've just remembered what happened. And this is heartbreaking. It's absolutely heartbreaking. I think it's very realistic as well. So he's taken to hospital, and you find out he's got cancer. And it's been caught early, and they've basically it's been caught early, we can remove the tumour, we can do chemo. And then again, it's this really human moment of kind of like, my wife did that, and that didn't work for her. I'll take the leaflets, but I'm not interested. And then they play, I think it's the first time they start playing Gonna Fly Now, but they play it really slowly on a piano. But this is the 7th film with this character. It's not like kind of a movie of the week thing. It just feels very real. It feels very real. And he's kind of giving Adonis advice of what to do if he's not there. And you're thinking, okay, and then doesn't he find the leaflets in Rocky's pocket? And again, in other films, when he got the leaflet, you think, well, in 20 minutes' time, someone's going to find those leaflets. But no, it's actually in 20 seconds' time.
It's very quick. So he finds them in the locker room, talks to Rocky about it, and Rocky just says, well, no, I'm not doing it. He lost his wife to cancer. Paulie's gone. Essentially, he's ready. He was ready before Donnie turned up.
I'm okay with dying. Everyone in my life is dead. I'm the past. And then he hits the bombshell, which is like, look, we're not really a family. I'm just an old trainer. Which is the bit that, again, kind of rips Adonis' heart out then at the same time. So he's upset because of what's happening to Rocky, but he's also upset because, on face value, he's being told that actually this whole new life he's built for himself doesn't really exist.
Yeah. And, he's never had a stable, normal family either. His own blood mother died. He's raised by a stepmom who's not technically blood at all. And now he's got an uncle who's sort of family, but now he's been told, well, none of it's real. It's all just in your head. It doesn't mean anything. And
he's not going to be around much longer either.
Yeah. Yeah, because he's not even willing to try.
Which is, again, that's all he's being told to do is train, fight. And then the person who's telling him that isn't willing to do the same.
Yeah.
And this is the bit where he kind of loses his temper. He's been told, but in the past by Rocky, to kind of channel his aggression for the fight. But he kind of, obviously, he's very, very, very upset at this point. And he does massively overreact. He goes to Bianca's gig, isn't it? Her big kind of breakthrough gig.
Yes.
And this guy just keeps calling him Little... Well, the guy's the headliner, I think. Keeps calling him Little Creed, and you can see it's niggling him, and he keeps saying it, and it's niggling him more, and then he kind of beats the guy up. And he's almost back to being that boy at the start of the film.
Yes, and he ends up in a cell, and Rocky comes to see him.
And then it kind of flips. It kind of... where Rocky kind of almost pushed Adonis away, he does the same. He's like, I get it, we're not real family. In fact, you killed my family. You got my family killed, which is really, really, to the bone, isn't it? Because Rocky said himself that he wishes he stopped the fight in Rocky 4, and now he's kind of thrown that back in his face. But then Rocky says, you're angry with your father, but you can't be angry with him because he's not here.
Yeah, so you're angry with me because I'm surrogate father and essentially, I'm the nearest punching bag you're lashing out at.
And then Adonis is crying, which is quite, it's very emotional, very emotional. And then he kind of goes to make it up to Bianca, and there's a really good moment where she's kind of she so doesn't want to hear what he's got to say that she turns her hearing aid off.
Yeah, closes the door, turns the hearing aid off, and can't hear anything he says at all.
So he's back to he's built this life, and he's back to being completely alone.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's sat in the doorway of the gym, isn't he? And there's a kid on a bike who recognises him, and you think, oh no. It's never good when anyone calls him Creed. But actually this has the opposite effect. This kind of spurs him on. I'm trying to remember why, but he goes back to Rocky's place, doesn't he?
Yeah, he goes back and talks to Rocky.
Tries to convince him to fight as well. He's like, yeah, I won't train unless you get treatment. I'll fight if you fight. And there's a fist bump of agreement. And then again, it's very emotional. You get Rocky having chemo. The training montage with a montage of him getting better in hospital, which again really hits home. And you can see that Adonis is pushing himself even harder in training, I think inspired by this.
And he's training in the hospital,
right.
Like you see him going up and down. Like Rocky gets out a stop clock and he's like, what are you doing? He's like, well, you're carrying on training. So he's running up and down the stairs in the hospital. And all the doctors are just kind of ignoring him, watching him go up and down the stairs. And he's doing like sit-ups and press-ups and stuff in Rocky's treatment room when he has the chemo. And then they intercut with some awful, awful scenes of like Rocky's losing his hair.
It looks so real. It looks so real.
Oh, and Donnie's like helping him to the toilet so he can be sick. He's watching him train with videos. He's lying in a chair with his glasses on and his hair's going, and Donnie's sat with an iPad with him looking at stuff for training. And, it's all, they're studying Conlon, but Rocky just looks so old and frail and weak. It's just such a difference from the other films. I guess the characters really changed.
And Sylvester Stallone always seems invincible. And then it's like seeing a relative. There's the closest thing I think on film to seeing a relative in that situation, because it's someone you feel like it's someone you feel like is always going to be there, and then something like that. I think it was a real gut punch, no pun intended. I think for when you're watching it, and then you get a scene which I think is really good. I know other people thought was really cheesy, but I really liked it.
Which one?
Bit with the motorbikes.
Oh yeah.
So because he's been doing this training, and he's running along, and then all the way through the film, you've seen these guys doing wheelies up the streets on like motorbikes and quads, and they start chasing him and pushing him to run faster. And then I think this is where you start to get there's a new kind of rap take on Flying High. And then he's training in the middle of the street with all these bikes around him, and then Rocky comes to the window to look at. It's a really powerful moment, I think.
Well, it goes back to the first film again of him in the grey hooded sweatshirt running through the streets with the kids on bikes, and this time it's him running through streets with kids on motorbikes. It's a great echo back to that first film.
I think some people think it's hackneyed. I think it's just really smart. I just think it's really
well, it's a nod to the old stuff, and it's moving stuff on again by having it slightly different. So that's just what it was. I don't take anything else from it. So I really liked it as well. I thought it was good.
And now we're off to Liverpool.
Yeah, which was a surprise. I didn't think the film would actually go there. I thought it was just going to be, oh look, we're in here and we're here and there. And they always film it in Vancouver, which makes it look like everything.
I remember the social media thing of if you're an Everton fan or a boxing or film fan, extras wanted to be the crowd and meet Sylvester Stallone. I thought that's weird. I thought maybe. I couldn't work out what it was. Was it a promotional thing or what? So
you knew about this? I saw
there's something to say about that it was going to be, and I'd forgotten it was anything to do with this. I'm sure I saw something saying it was going to be in Everton. Maybe we should have gone. Probably on the day. It must have been on the day, and I was like, "Oh, Creed! They're filming in Everton. That's weird. Maybe Rocky goes to watch a football match."
It's just the thing. This is the only time I'd ever go to a live football match and sit in a crowd. That'd be the only time you'd ever get me there. You know,
you'd have had to boo him. I don't think I could have done that.
Well, they wouldn't notice two was not booing in a crowd.
Well, yeah.
Come on.
We only boo in cinemas. We don't boo in football stadiums.
Yeah, spit on, boo.
I bet you all like Point Break, the remake.
And, Total Recall remake.
I haven't seen that.
Awful, don't. A RoboCop remake, awful, don't. All the way through the film, I'm just going, you just shoot me in the hand. That's what he's got. He's a massive robot, yeah, and he's got a real hand. It's just a target. You just shoot his real hand. Oh look, now he hasn't got a gun. Ta-da! Anyway, sorry.
I'm not going to see it, so it's fine.
Awful. So yeah, they have the big fight, and it's a massive crowd in a massive football stadium.
Park.
Wow.
And this is a nice moment because his mum hasn't had anything to do with him since in the film.
Yeah.
And she sent him a pair of shorts.
Yeah, and it's the Stars of Strike
Legacy, and it's got Johnson on the back and Creed on the...
No, it's got Creed on the back, Johnson on the front. Okay. I think so. Yeah, I think so. I can't remember now, but anyway, but it's got both names. So it's a nod to his father, particularly as you say,
but you're part of him.
Yeah, you're not your father.
You're a bit of both. And he's booed a lot. He's booed.
Well, that's fine. That's fine. He's the underdog.
Conan.
But it's his home crowd. It's just Conan's home crowd.
I used to go and watch boxing in the pub when I was a student, and it takes me back to Eubank. Those days.
Wow, old school.
Old school. It's a barbaric sport.
Excellent. Right. I think that's your first impression. You know what? It was a good one.
The only one I have.
Is that the one you can do?
I think so. I don't know. I'll wait till I hear this back.
Oh dear. So yeah, we get the big fight. Sure, we don't want to go over it round by round, but it looks fairly uneven to begin with.
Conan comes out to a massive fuss. They do fire breathing.
Yeah. Odd.
And he's almost taken down. And it is that typical thing of kind of Conan thinks it's going to be easy, really. And I think...
Well, it's not a real contender.
And it's kind of in round 3, I think, that Creed lands a big combo for the first time. And he does the one step, one punch, one round at a time.
Yeah,
and I think he pretty much... Well, he goes a distance, which is, on paper, crazy.
Yeah, I mean, there's some moments that wobble, like, he gets knocked down at one point, and you think, Conlon basically thinks that's it, it's all over, but Creed gets back up, and it's that, there's a weird moment, actually, where you get this kind of flashback thing. It's almost like the moment of death, where they say your life flashes before your eyes.
Oh, that's it. Is that round? I think it's round 8. He gets knocked down.
Yeah, but you get all these kind of flashes of certain moments through the film, and then right at the end of the flashback, you get one of his father, which really surprised me.
Yeah.
I thought they were going to keep it very much, in the present and related to everything, and suddenly, bang, you get that image of his dad, and it's like someone's just electrocuted him.
Yeah, it is.
Like it's hit him with a, stand back, clear, badoof, and he just jumps, and he wakes. So he doesn't jump to his feet, but he wakes up, and then he gets up.
Yeah, and I think that could have been like, oh well, how would he even know what is, but because we know he was watching those fights over and over again as a younger guy, that he knows those fights inside out, and he knows exactly what his father looked like. He knows exactly what his father went through, and so it's amazing silent slow-mo when he is put down. But I guess to get to this point, it's done the typical thing, really, of being back and forth, underestimated, gets a little bit on top, the champion kind of steps it back up.
Yeah,
and then now here, he's back up, and I didn't notice this, but my wife told me about the cheating from his cut man that gives him
his cut man. So one of Donnie's eyes is completely closed and swollen, and the other one is pretty knackered. And the ref comes over and says, "Can you see out that eye?" And he's like, "Yeah." And it's Rocky puts his hand on the back of Donnie's neck, and the ref says, "How many fingers am I holding up?" And Rocky taps the back of his neck to tell him how many fingers he's holding, because he can't see out that eye. And the bloody ref believes him, which is amazing. But it's like, okay, fight can continue. But he's effectively blind in one eye.
Yeah.
Which is, Conlon, if anything, at this point, is now... I think he's realised that
there's no way of stopping this kid, really.
No.
And he's just got to hope he's enough on points, really. And then there's a touching moment again. He's like, I think Adonis kind of says to Rocky, "I'm not a mistake," that's the big thing, which you don't even really think about until the end of the film. It's like, he doesn't want this guy's name because he thinks he's a mistake, and therefore he has no purpose. And this whole film is him looking for a purpose. And then Rocky's like, I will fight this cancer. And again, he kind of out loud is kind of confirming that. And he's like, "You go, knock him out." So up to then, he's kind of been like, do this and do that and whatever, just try and stay on your feet, whatever. And he almost hasn't quite believed in him that he could do it, but now he's like, you know what, you go out there and you knock him out.
It's like that moment from, maybe it's Rocky 1, where Mickey just leans into him and just kind of says, "Run over him," and he's just like, it's just eliminate him. It's not knock him down, not take him on points.
Well, I think he says there's only one thing. He said, "You're fighting yourself.
He's in your way.
Get him out of the way." And it's watching Rocky almost become Mickey, as you say.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just that Meredith, And
the commentators at this point are starting to believe that something's going to happen. And I love this bit. He's hitting them downstairs like Rocky and upstairs like Apollo. So he's actually become this amazing hybrid of both of them.
Yeah.
Which is brilliant. There's seconds to go in the final round. There's no Adrian moment. I was waiting for, if he shouted Bianca, I was going to be like, yeah, actually that is a bit naff.
That's one too far, yeah.
But he puts
Conlon on the floor, doesn't he?
He does. Because it's the last round, isn't it? He can't, if he doesn't get back up, that's it. That would be counted as a TKO. But he does get back up, and there's again the great line here. It's like, it was an unforgettable fight, the living embodiment of Apollo Creed, and it's a split decision. But then Conlon comes over and says, "What does he say?" He says, "You're the future of the sport, kid," or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Because he's going away, and this kid's gone the distance. This kid has come from nowhere, who has the name, but has everything to prove, and he's proven it. Not as Rocky says in this great speech, he says, "Not to your father, not to me, but to yourself. You've got to prove that you're supposed to be."
And it's totally true that his whole battle has been with himself. He thinks he's a mistake, and he doesn't believe that he deserves that name. So he has been fighting himself through the whole film. And then again, the thing at the end is that the crowd are now chanting. By the end of the fight, they're chanting Creed. And I've seen that in real fights where the person that everyone's kind of against, by the end of the fight, they've kind of... And that's what I do like about boxing crowds, is they do give respect to a good performance. And I thought maybe it would end there. Maybe Bianca would come
in the ring like Rocky 1.
But there's an even better moment to come.
Go on.
So they're back in Philly, and they're in the van, and they stop at the steps. And first of all, I thought, okay, you really are revisiting it. But actually, this is another very emotional moment. They're walking up together, but because Rocky's having treatment, and he's obviously older, and he's ill, he can't quite do it. So now the tables are turned, and Adonis is the one giving him a push, and he gets to say, "Look, it's one step at a time."
Yeah. And Rocky's probably thinking, he's using that against me now.
And
but they managed to do it. They managed to get to the top of the
I think they've put some more steps in here.
Yeah.
And then it's just this nice moment. He's like, what does life look like from up here? And he's like, not. And they both say, not bad at all.
Yeah.
So the only thing that, and as I said, there was a couple of things that bothered me. So there was the British aspect, which again sounds crazy.
Yeah.
The son kind of being glossed over because they needed to get rid of him not in the story really. But the main thing for me is that at no point did it ever go back to LA. I know the mum, he kind of made up with his mum, but you never saw like the trainer or Wheeler watching the fight or being aware of the fight. And I thought that was a missed opportunity.
Enough with the yakety-yak. What is your score?
Okay, so are we ready to give it a score?
You've got run long, haven't we, tonight?
We have actually. We've almost run as long as the film. So, do you want to go first?
Okay. You can probably tell, really, that I absolutely love this film. Really. Again, the minor things I had with it were so minor.
Yeah.
It's everything I wanted, I think. And I'm a massive boxing film fan. You know, say I saw Southpaw last year, but things like Midnight Sting is one of my favourite films of all time. I think that's, if you've ever seen it, it's called Digstown in the States.
Don't think so, no.
Gladiator, which is James Marshall and Cuba Gooding Jr. that I really like. Obviously, Raging Bull. There's something about boxing films that I just absolutely love. And I've always loved the Rocky films. I now want to go and watch them all again in order. Right now. Yeah, this is just. I don't think I could have hoped for it to be this good. It didn't really. No reason why it should have been this good. And yeah, whatever other people say that thought it was too revisionist, it's like, well, actually, I really like the fact that it was parallels to the earlier one. So, as we're not allowed to give 6, I'm going to give it 5.
The max is 5, and there's no half
so
bags.
5 overflowing bags.
Out of 5. Okay. Like you, when they first announced the idea, I was a little bit sceptical. I thought, I don't know. But then as more details came out and they talked about the fact that it was Creed's son and that Stallone would be involved in Rocky in some degree, and I kept thinking, right, that's going to be kind of a Mickey role, and that's what he's fulfilled. So it pays respect to the past. It's still within the same franchise. There's no reset button. And that's what I like. I like the fact that they've done that with this and some of the other franchises, but it works really well with this. Rocky Balboa was a very satisfying conclusion after a poor one, and I think Stallone was done with it. I think he was happy and he was done. He wrapped up this, he'd wrapped up Rambo. He talked about going back and doing Rambo again, but I don't think he could, because there again, Rambo went home and went to the farm. And that was it. You didn't need to go any further than that, to where he went full circle, and that's what we had with Balboa. So this was a real kind of left turn that I never saw coming, and yet it really works. It's just lots of nice nods. There's something similar, yes, but there's lots of new things going on. It's a different character. He's not Rocky, and he's not Apollo Creed either. He's just somebody very, very different. So I didn't have any real issues with it. I really loved the film. It was, as you say, very, very emotional. And some people I know will just look at it and go, well, it's a boxing film. And that you could say that about almost any film. If all you're seeing is what's on the surface, then great. That's all. And you enjoyed the film, great. But with any other film, well, pretty much, you can scratch the surface. And there's more going on. There's always a bigger story. There's always character development. There's always more meaning to the story. And that's what there was with this. As you said, it's all about the quest of, was he a mistake or not? That's what there's the film, there's the story, and then there's what the film is about. And that's what the film is about. It's not a boxing film. It's a film to find out if this kid was a mistake, or was he always meant to be this thing.
Although I guess from a bags of action, if we just, even having said all that, the boxing in this film is amazing.
Oh yeah, it's great stuff. They train for months and months. I've seen some of the videos and stuff, and Tony Bello, the guy who plays Ricky Conlon, took loads of pictures that he's released online of him behind the scenes working with stuff and working with Michael Jordan. He just said, he's such a top quality guy. He's just worked so hard, and he really respected Jordan. So if you couldn't guess already, I'm going to give it 5 bags as well, the max score.
It's there with Dredd, and that's it. or 5?
I think there might have been one more that we both gave film 5. But
Predator, I think.
Yes, so this is episode 30. So out of 30 films,
3 full scores.
We've got probably 3 that have got full scores. An excellent film. This is something that I will buy on DVD. I've now got the point where, because I watch so much stuff digitally, I'm less inclined to buy DVDs because you can just pull it up and watch it. But I think this is something that I want to actually own a physical copy of now. A Blu-ray
copy would be a purchase I'd like to make. Mm-hmm. I hadn't realised actually that obviously John G. Avildsen directed Rocky.
Yeah.
Then Sly did 2, 3, and 4. Then John G. Avildsen returned for 5. Then Stallone did Balboa. So only 3 directors have actually directed this character. And John G. Avildsen did another good boxing film, Power of One.
Oh, okay.
Stephen Dorff. And a very early role for Daniel Craig, if I remember rightly.
Wow. Okay then. So yeah, it's a great film, absolutely great film. Really, really enjoyed it. And if you haven't seen it, we've missed some bits out. We obviously spoiled a lot, but we always do. So I'd definitely recommend it. Right, we've gone on for far too long.
Maybe it's almost tomorrow.
It's good night from me.
And it's good night from me.
You have been listening to Bags of Action. No bullshit. You'd better stick around for the next episode, because if you're lying, I'll be back.